Welcome to my craft table. Hello, this is Jamie Magrich. Welcome to Jamie's Craft Table. Today I'd like to show you how I made this card. It's a masking technique, so there's no layers. It's all the same. And this one I use masking paper. This one I used copy paper out of my printer. But it's the same exact technique. So let me get started and I'll show you what we're going to be using. For paper, we have a piece that of the Whisper White, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, the same size as the front of a card. And the only reason I'm doing that is because I'm going to be coloring it with the blend markers and it'll bleed through. You could just do it on the front of your card base if you'd like to, if you're not going to color it in with blends. The card base, 5 1/2 by 8 1/2, scored and folded at 4 1/4. I have a piece of masking paper. This is Avery removable ID labels. You can use any masking paper you like. I've already, for the sake of time, cut my leaves out of the center of it, but I'm going to show you how I did that. And this is the one with the typing paper. So it works the same way. Okay, and the die itself is the Four Seasons framelits. I just used this nice maple leaf out of here. There's a new leaf one in the holiday catalog. I haven't purchased it yet, so I used this one. And all I did was I took my masking paper, I laid it on the paper, ran it through my die cutting machine. I moved it a couple of times, so I had 3 different leaves on there. The stamp set itself is from Seasonal Wreaths. I'm using this sprig here. And then I'm going to use this sentiment, but I cut it in half and I'm probably just going to use the Celebrate, but I might use this part down farther. Okay, and then I have some blends. I have dark Cajun Craze. It's not on all the way. I have light Old Olive. I have a light shaded Spruce, the Pineapple Punch Dark. This one is the dark Calypso Coral, the light Mint Macaroon, which is what I use to do the shadow, and then the dark Soft Seafoam. Okay, and then I've got some jewels, whatever. I use gold ones on one. I use some little metal spots on another one. So it's whatever you want to use. For ink pads, I have Pineapple Punch, Pumpkin Pie. I stamped my sentiment with Cajun Craze. And then I have the Tuxedo Black. And then I have a couple of Stampin' Sponges. And I just put a binder clip on it. It just makes it a little easier to hang on to it, a little less messy. Okay, so let's get started. I've got a stack of papers here so that any excess ink that comes off of my paper goes onto there, and it also gives me a little bit of a cushion. So I'm just going to peel this backing off of here. This is the hardest part of the whole thing. Actually, the hardest part is getting this back off, but if you're not trying to save it, it doesn't matter. I tried to save it the last time and it ripped. That's why I had to make another one. So leaves are a little intricate. Okay, and then I put it on here. This is 4 by 5 1/2. And the reason I did that is so that I could get those borders on either side and not have to use another sheet of paper. It's just inked. Okay, so I'm just going to get it lined up at the bottom. Hopefully it's straight going up the edge. Right down, and this is on that 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch piece. Okay, then I brought in my bone folder, and you want to bone fold it or make sure all these edges are down nice and crisp. That helps to get the nice crisp edges around. If you're using the printer paper, you just have to be careful when you're inking that you're not pulling up the corners so you get nice edges. It does work. It works almost as well. This is just a little bit easier, and I can get a smoother blend with this masking paper, whereas with the copy paper it was a little more blotchy, which for this one it doesn't really matter. Okay, then I took my pumpkin pie and a sponge, and I'm going to sponge all my leaves. However dark you want it to be, sponge this edges, and you want to make them as even as possible so that it looks like designer series, you know, like you put a layer of paper behind it. And sometimes it helps to go from the outside in. Whatever technique works best for you. This is the technique I used for the printer paper. You could also use the printer paper and coat the back of it with the Tombow Mono multi-purpose glue, and then let it dry so it becomes like a Post-it note. That would work as well. A little bit more on these edges. Like this bright yellow. It's a fun yellow. Okay. Then I came in with my pumpkin pie and another sponge dauber, and I added a little bit of this pumpkin pie onto these leaves. Especially they're maple leaves, so they're going to have quite a bit of color in them. You don't want it to be too dark. And see how it got blotchy there? If you start off your paper, it doesn't blotch quite as much, but it takes more time because you have to do more layer. And for the leaves, it doesn't really matter because if you look at maple leaves, they have that splotchy, different color to them anyway. So I didn't worry about it too much. I'm trying not to get the orange into the edge, but if you do, it's fine too. Okay, done with those two. Let's close them up so I don't have a horrible mess. Okay, now I'm going to bring in the memento and this punch or stamp here. I'm going to ink this up and I'm going to stamp it over these leaves. You want to try not to overlap them within the leaf, within the same leaves, but you want to cover the whole leaf for the majority of it. Try not to get it on the edges if you can. Quite sure how I did that one. Maybe I'll just have to do two there. Oops. Don't worry about it. Alright, come over to this one. Turn it so I get alternatives. Okay. Now we can take this mask off and reveal it. Here it comes. It's really kind of cool. Just make sure your fingers are clean so you don't get ink on the white part where you don't want it. See what I mean? If you're not careful, the mask will break. Whereas the typing paper you can use a couple times. Just brought in my take your pick tool so I can pick up the corner here where it tore. That's the only tricky part, getting this back off. One more little piece there. There we go. Now I'm going to stamp the sentiment. Decide where I want to put it. That's what I might do. So I have this piece of gold trim. So I think I'll put it down here. And I'm going to stamp that with the Cajun Craze. Okay. Oops, I just stuck my finger right in it. I'm going to clean that off. Okay. Now you could be done with it at this point if you like the way it looks. I like it. I think it's really sharp, but I also liked it when I colored it in a little. So I took the Cajun Craze, dark Cajun Craze, and I colored around the inside of these flower any of those. I colored these ones. I want to stay within the leaf shape. Don't want to go outside of the leaf shape. And I'm not doing a neat job. I'm just adding a little bit of color. You could just do one of them if you wanted. And then I came in with the pineapple punch. Add a little bit more. Blend that just a little bit. Okay, then I took light old olive and I did these big leaves with the light old olive. shedding. You can use any stamp you wanted. I just was looking for one with a small flower in it. And this would be really pretty heat embossed with like copper embossing powder and then colored in. Or even left just with the copper embossing powder. That would be sharp too. Okay, then I took the light shaded spruce and I colored in these little tiny leaves. Originally I did it with the mint macaron, but I like the difference. This little bit of aqua color adds just a little bit of something else. Hopefully my hair is not sticking into the camera. Oops, went out of the... Couple more, I'm almost done, sorry. I should have done one halfway, so there we go. Okay. Then I took the light mint macaroon, or you could use the soft sea foam, either one of them. And I just traced around. I'm going to use this edge. Traced around each one of the leaves. This gives a little bit of a shadow. Looks like each leaf is matted almost onto a different color. And you could do this with a flower, you could do this with any shape at all. I gotta come up with an idea to do with all those leaves that I cut out. Mask something else, maybe on a solid piece of paper or something. I'll have to play and see something else. One more. Now if you were going to add any ribbon or anything, I would do it at this stage before I mounted it to my card, unless you're going to wrap the ribbon all the way around the card on the inside, which then you wouldn't matter. This one, I think I'm just going to put this little piece of gold foil paper that I had sitting on my desk. It's a little piece of decoration there like that. I like that. I think that's what I'm going to do. I'll bring in my glue. Oh, of course, this one doesn't want to work. I bought a bunch of new glue, so I wouldn't have that issue. I'm still having that issue. Come on. Fiddlesticks. It's because I leave it sitting open on my desk. Okay, turn it over and snip that off. Pair of scissors. Okay, let's bring in our card base. It's the same side as the front of the card. Just add your glue. I find if I set it down like that, it makes it be, helps it to get lined up. Okay, then you can use any gems you have. I'm going to go ahead and use these. And take your pick tool. I'm just going to put a few down here. There we go. There's the card we just made. Here's the ones I did previous. These are just little metal brad things that I had in my stash. They're iron-on ones. I just glued them on with glue dots. There's the other cards that I made previously. Well, thank you for joining me at Jamie's Craft Table. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Oh, this stamp here, Hello Friend, is from a paper pumpkin, On My Mind, and it's this one here. Well, thank you again, and have a great day, everybody.